Hello. So we meet again. Well, if you've made it this far, you're probably doing okay. Because this is module 10. And that's just so happens to be chapter 10. So we're going to keep going with it. As you can see, I'm not in the mountains or the desert today. I'm back in my office at home in Spiro, Oklahoma. So it's a nice sunny day, as you can see by the window behind me. Right? Daytime. We're going to get started on chapter 10. Fire prevention responsibilities of the public sector. Now, last time we talked about the private sector, which was basically everything but the government. The public sector is the government. So we're going to talk about big bad government. Except in this context that we're going to talk about, it's really a pretty good government because there's a lot of good stuff that the government's doing in these things here. I am not a big government fan, but I think most of these the programs we're going to talk about are pretty good. Maybe a little overkill, probably overstaffed and overpaid, but it's government. So we're going to talk about, after this class, you should be able to identify federal resources that may be called to assist at the local level, describe the role of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in fire investigation. Okay. Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, explosion. I thought that was just a good party. Compare the role of the federal government in fire prevention in the United States with its counterparts in other countries. Identify which federal agency has had the greatest impact on fire prevention. Now, the U.S. Department of Defense, big department in the government, big important one too. Of course, has the Army, Navy, Air Force, and the Marines. Of course, the Marines are part of the Navy. They hate that, but that's the way it is. U.S. Coast Guard is an important one too, but it's one of the 5 armed forces branch and the only military branch. It's within the Department of Homeland Security, not the Department of Defense. It safeguards U.S. maritime and environmental interests and has a long history of legal responsibility in the field of fire prevention, both aboard vessels and in U.S. ports. Department of Justice, the Drug Enforcement Administration, FBI, ATF, parts of it. I'm going to talk about some of those. Federal Bureau of Investigation. We all know that as the FBI. The top law enforcement agency, the Department of Justice, offering intelligence services and threat-focused national security, support state and local law enforcement on crimes such as arson by facilitating access to national crime data and specialized forensic management of evidence. We all know that the FBI is really good at what they do when they do what they're supposed to be doing. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, I think it added explosives later. It's a law enforcement agency in the Department of Justice that regularly inspects and licenses explosive dealers. Now, explosive dealers aren't dealers that explode. They're dealers that handle explosives, just to make sure you're straight on that. Manufacturers and users when any aspect of the operation may involve interstate commerce. Investigate certain cases of arson, explosives, use of firebombs, and careless activities relating to explosives. Now, notice they say interstate commerce, involve interstate commerce. That's the federal government's purview. Basically, doesn't handle anything that's not involved in interstate commerce, which is pretty wide because almost everything is involved in one way or another in interstate commerce. I mean, if you're a store and you get a bottle of ketchup from the state next door, you're involved in interstate commerce. U.S. Department of the Interior, National Park Service, Bureau of Land Management, and Bureau of Indian Affairs are the 3 big there. National Park Service is a division of the Department of Interior that promotes conservation and environmental awareness in the national parks, including countless historical structures and icons through administration of an aggressive fire prevention program. If you ever got a chance to go to some of our national parks, by all means, go. I've been to a few of them. I've been to Yosemite in California. I've been to Yellowstone. That's the granddaddy of them all, and probably the most interesting. It's beautiful. It's all rugged. It sits on top of a volcano, basically, and that's why you have a lot of hot, bubbling water coming out of it. And, there's bison standing by, which you can walk up and pet if you're really stupid. People try it every year, and they don't come back frequently. You don't want to pet them. There's some places you're walking on a boardwalk kind of thing, and there's bubbling hot water up all around you. So it's kind of neat. Got to see Old Faithful. It was a really great place to go. If you ever got a chance to go on vacation and want a good place to go, go to Yellowstone. I strongly suggest it. U.S. Department of Agriculture, U.S. Forest Service. That's a division of the Department of Agriculture that maintains a widespread fire suppression force and conducts an extensive nationwide fire prevention promotion program. Forest Service, again, widespread fire suppression forces, but their claim to fame is Smokey the Bear. Recognized by 95% of adults. That's his slogan, is only you can prevent forest fires. That's what's recognized by 95% of adults and 85% of children 8 to 12. That's a staggering number in this country to be recognized, 85%, even 95%. So accidental wildfires were cut in half when he started that program, and while visitors to the forest increased tenfold. So it's been a great program. Just about everybody knows Smokey the Bear. Census Bureau. They take a census how often? Every 10 years. I did that in 2020 for a while. I worked for the Census Bureau taking census. It wasn't too bad. I didn't really like it too much because most of the time, because they do it every 10 years, their data is old. So most of the time, you're chasing down addresses that don't exist. And that's the part about it I didn't like. When you got to talk to the people face to face, that was pretty good, pretty interesting. National Institute of Standards and Technology. Research, they do research in fire science, fire engineering, fire safety fields. U.S. Department of Labor, OSHA. We've heard about them before, haven't we? What's OSHA stand for? Two things. Occupational Safety and Health Act, which created the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Then you have MSHA, Mine Safety and Health Administration. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, is a division of the Department of Labor, which is charged with developing safe and healthy work conditions through standards and regulations, including those covering fire protection. We're going to talk about OSHA regulations and fire protection a little later on in this course. Mine Safety and Health Administration is MSHA, an agency of the Department of Labor that has direct responsibility for fire prevention and safety within coal, metallic, and non-metallic mines, often sharing this responsibility with the State Bureau of Mines. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Formed in 1953, this department has had a major impact on fire safety through a number of agencies with direct interests in fire protection. Healthcare facilities receiving funds through Medicare, Title 18, and Medicaid, Title 19, must meet their fire prevention standards. And that's a good idea. That's a good way that the government does wield its power. You're going to get funds from us, and you better follow our rules. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Devoting considerable attention to fire protection for lower income housing units. This department has funded several research products in the fire protection field. It also enforces requirements for manufactured housing. Federal Housing Administration, an arm of the Department of Housing and Urban Development that has set certain standards for structures insured under the National Housing Act and other federal laws, which include minimum fire safety standards. FAA is the Federal Aviation Administration. What's that have to do with? Aviation. So it has to do with birds, right? Well, not really. How about airplanes and helicopters and that type of thing? Federal Motor Carrier Safety Information Administration. Motor carriers are basically trucks. Could be other things, but trucks basically. Federal Railroad Administration. I'm going to guess you already know what they cover. Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, PHMSA it's called. Again, pipelines and hazardous materials, two different things. Pipelines are usually carrying hazardous materials, but not always. Department of Homeland Security, as we mentioned before, U.S. Coast Guard is the Department of Homeland Security, Bureau of Customs and Border Protection. I'm not going to go into the southern border right now. FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency. There's been good, heard and bad about FEMA. They've been pretty good as a rule, I think, but down at one thing, it was Haiti, I think they spent a whole bunch of money, like millions of dollars on like 10 houses. So there's a lot of corruption in government, and that's probably one of them right there. U.S. Fire Administration, or USFA. Federal Aviation Administration, the agency under the U.S. Department of Transportation, is responsible for control of all aspects of aviation. Excuse me. I usually know when I'm going to sneeze. That's good. All right, for FAA, sorry about that. The agency under the U.S. Department of Transportation is responsible for the control of all aspects of aviation, including safety features incorporated within aircraft. That include and have to do with fire. U.S. Department of Homeland Security, established as a result of the attacks on September 11th, 2001. This department was established in 2002, and it provides funds through matching grants to local fire departments and public safety agencies. FEMA, here we go again, Federal Management Agency. This agency under the Department of Homeland Security, responsible for emergency management and other coordinating programs relating to major disasters. Chemical Safety and Hazards Investigation Board, or commonly called the Chemical Safety Board, or the CSB. I've used a lot of videos in my classes on them because they're really good. Consumer Product Safety Commission, for guess what? Consumer products, including toys, stuff like that. Environmental Protection Agency, I'm pretty sure we all know what they're all about. General Service Administration, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, nuclear material, National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB. I watch aviation disasters series, and the NTSB is always on board investigating aircraft accidents, and it's very interesting, and they are thorough beyond belief. Consumer Product Safety Commission, agency that endeavors to eliminate hazards associated with consumer products, including toys, hazardous substances, and flammable fabrics. State fire marshal responsibilities include code enforcement, fire investigation, statistics, fire safety education. Almost all states have somebody, not the title, but that position. Health Department, Department of Education, your state agencies. We had, and I worked at OK Foods in Huebner, there was a report of somebody in the plant that had tuberculosis. I don't even remember if it was true or not, but it was a report. So we duly called the Oklahoma Health Department, and they came in on I believe it was a Saturday even, and they came in with a lot of people. I'm going to say 8 or so. We had our nurses there. We had all the people that were in contact with this person to come in and be tested for tuberculosis. And I don't remember. It was probably mandatory. I don't recall the details of it. And so they did, and they were there for a couple of hours, and they tested everybody, and nobody had it. So that was good and spread, but it was good what they did. They reacted quickly, and they were very thorough. So I got to say kudos to the Health Department in Oklahoma. And also that's where I get my COVID shots too. Then they do a very good job. You get an appointment down there, man, you're there in time, and you're out there within half an hour easy. And that includes the 15-minute wait period you got to do. Department of Labor and Industry, that could be called different things. Public Utilities Commission, Bureau of Mines, if they have a mine in a state, Forestry Division. There's a lot of other state agencies that get involved. This is just a one of the fire engines from Spiro here, the latest one we got. So we are really up on top of things. No, this is from some museum, sorry. Other state agencies with related functions, state medical examiner. If you read the book, it's interesting about why they call that. There's there's a lot of interesting things in that book. Believe me, I keep telling you this. I hope you're doing it. Read the book. It doesn't read like a textbook. It's just very well written it's very readable, I think. And so there's a lot of good stuff in it. State institutions, like prisons, stuff like that. Building code agencies, educational institutions. Almost every state has a college or two. And Carl Albert State College is part of the educational institution in the state of Oklahoma. Judicial branch, the judicial branch has to prosecute arsonists, for example, and code enforcement too. Legislative branch has to pass laws that the judicial branch can uphold. So that's a firehouse. Okay. Countywide fire. If you want to read more about that, it's in the book. Countywide fire departments. Some counties have countywide fire departments. Los Angeles County Fire Department is huge. Los Angeles County, big county, of course, and they contract for a lot of cities. And I lived in Downey, California. They had the county fire department. They, instead of having their own fire department, they just pay the county to do it for them, and that's works out, I think, for best for both of them. They do fiscal support for volunteer organizations, communication centers, and training. Municipal government, municipal basically a city or town or whatever. Fire departments, almost all of them have it of any size. It's either career or volunteer or a combination. POTO has a combination of career and volunteer fire departments, firefighters, assessors, tax support agencies. You got to have assessors to assess property, tax agent to tax property, to pay for the fire department, and emergency management, and others. So the summary of this chapter is the government, except at the municipal level, has not been as active in fire prevention and protection in the United States and Canada as has been in other countries. Notice that, except at the municipal level. So in this country, the municipal level has always been active in it, and but in fire protection prevention. However, because population growth and economic changes in the 21st century are concentrating the population in urban areas, the influence of governmental agencies in fire prevention efforts at all levels is steadily increasing. What they're saying here is more people are moving to and living in cities. Poor people. Indicative of this trend is the creation by Congress in 1973 of the National Fire Prevention and Control Administration, now known as the U.S. Fire Administration, as part of the Department of Homeland Security. Among federal agencies, the Department of Agriculture has traditionally had the greatest impact on the general public with respect to fire prevention, mainly through the forest fire and mainly because of Smokey the Bear. However, the National Institute of Standards and Technology and FEMA, an arm of the Department of Homeland Security, have made many contributions in this field. Under the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, the Department of Labor has an impact on fire prevention through the enforcement of the act, which applies to businesses, industries, institutions, and other places of employment that engage in interstate commerce. Now, if you read this chapter, this particular section right here in the book, you'll find out I left out one thing in here, because in there it said farms. And as a rule, OSHA doesn't apply to agriculture. So the people that wrote this book weren't as up on OSHA maybe as, no, I don't think they should be, but they could have been. The Department of Transportation is an important force in fire prevention, as is the Department of Defense, which has maintained fire prevention efforts and training for members of the armed forces that carry over into civilian life. I spent 4 years in the Air Force, and they were pretty big on fire prevention. And I worked in nuclear weapons and in a secure area, and you could not bring cigarette lighters or matches into that area. You couldn't have anything. You couldn't have them. I didn't smoke at the time, but how'd you light your cigarette? They had a cigarette lighter on the wall. When you're up there, you press the button and it lit up, kind of like old cigarette lighters in your car to light cigarettes. No matches, zero matches, zero lighters. You'd be in big trouble if you carried matches or lighter into that area. And we had training on fire extinguishers, and they were big on it. And you don't want fires around nuclear weapons, that's for sure. Among state agencies, the Office of the State Fire Marshal is paramount, having wide responsibilities in fire code enforcement and inspections and investigations of suspicious fires, among other duties. The State Fire Marshal also lends aid and support to municipal fire departments. At the municipal level, the community fire department is without question the major bulwark against the perils and ravages of fire in the United States. Obviously, I mean, if you have a fire, you can't call somebody in the next town or state. You got to call somebody local, right? Practically every community has such a force, whether it's career, volunteer, or a combination of the two. So fire prevention responsibilities of the public section, this chapter is, my little presentation is over. I'm hitting the high points. Read the book. It's very interesting, and I think you'll enjoy it. It doesn't read like a textbook. And we hope to see you soon. Well, you'll see me soon. I won't see you, but that's how it goes.